What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? Where's my boy Remy? There we are.
Hi, how's it going, brother?
What's
Am I
up, man?
sideways?
You're sideways. There we go.
Oh, sorry, wrong side. Let's see. Okay, because normally on Facebook you got to actually do this the other way, but
There we
there we
go.
go.
All
There we
right.
go.
All
Can
right.
you guys see Dave? You guys can all see Dave.
Can everyone can you hear me? Okay. I'm using headphones this time, so I noticed my sound was a little choppy last time.
All right. There we go.
Everyone got good picture? Can people confirm that they can see us and hear us?
Awesome. Yeah, everybody. Can you guys see Dave? Oh yeah, Susie's saying, "Hey, Dave, what's up?"
Okay. Cool.
This
All right.
is. So I got my iPhone right here, pointing at you because I got all my Facebook friends that are following here. So I'm just setting this up. There you go. Perfect.
There we go. Yeah. All right. So we're on. I'm feeling good. I'm charged up, man. I still got some coffee. My habit. I'm trying to kick.
Oh yeah.
But
I just
yeah,
read something about coffee that it actually it limits 52% of your brain function.
I'm sure it does. I notice I don't get like the first few sips. It's kind of
Yeah.
like alcohol, man. When I used to drink, it's like the first few sips, you're like, oh, this is great, because you're
Yeah.
like those happy chemicals are kind of activating. But then it's like anything after that, you're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I like this.
Well, the worst part
So
about it, the worst part about that is that feeling that the next day you start feeling that kind of chill, almost like you got like some kind of a flu. Like that's how I used to feel in the next day after drinking. So I mean, I'm not a drinker, so I
yeah,
when
yeah,
I was maybe a teenager going out with my cousin to the clubs and stuff and sitting there drinking, the next day I'm like, why did I even do that? You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's interesting. It's part of the learning process of us.
right, yeah,
Growing.
and
You know what I mean?
it's crazy that I stopped drinking on December 23rd of last year.
Oh yeah.
I was starting to, I have kind of like an addictive personality. So I was starting to like drink like 4 or 5 drinks a night, like
Yeah.
comfortably. And I was like, what am I doing? Here I am like talking about veganism and not eating carcinogens. And then
Yeah.
I'm putting carcinogens in my body every night.
Totally.
And, I woke up and I was done. I was done. Just like when I did with quitting meat,
Yeah.
I just turned it off. I just said, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
When did you become a vegan? When was it?
that was fall 2014. So it's going on 5 years now.
Wow. Me
And
too. For me it was actually January 2014. So January 2014. Well, December 31st of 2013.
yeah,
With my band, we had a gig in the States somewhere, and
yeah,
I think it was in Detroit. And I said, "This is going to be my last steak." It was literally the Last Supper, and from that moment on, that was it.
yeah.
So it's interesting. So you were in the fall of 2014.
Fall 2014. I remember I was in San Francisco, and
Yeah,
when you and I had our first conversation, when was I was in San Francisco working,
that's
and
right.
I was on FedBook then,
Yeah,
and my sister sent me a slaughterhouse footage of a
yeah,
cow getting its throat slit, then its head cut off, and it ruined me. Ruined me. I was walking around the city crying,
yeah. I
and
know.
that was it. I said, I'm not gonna, participate in that anymore. That was it.
Yeah,
There's no way I'm gonna fund that. And from that point forward, I started really doing like my whole perspective on everything started to switch. So that's why like one of the biggest reasons why I talk about veganism is because once you get that awareness of that happening, which is one of the biggest conspiracies ever, what happens
yeah,
behind those doors,
yeah.
then other things start to activate, and the spiritual,
Everything.
yeah, spiritual
Totally.
intelligence comes. You know what I mean?
Totally. And then you can't unsee what you've seen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can't just go on life, thinking, oh, I'll just, tuck that into a corner into my brain and not even access it again. When you start looking and you start looking around at every single corner, you start seeing that they literally put it in your face. And we hear all the time, oh, you're a vegan, they're crazy, they're always pushing it in your face. But the fact of the matter is, once you wake up and you start seeing, that on every single corner, you get a burger, you get flame broiled ribs, you get, chicken wings, you get all these things. And you realize that it's by design. I mean, and this goes back to Babylon. It goes back to way back when during Sodom and Gomorrah, where anything went, bestiality, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice, they didn't care about life. They didn't.
Right.
And so that is how they were able to control the people. I mean, we know today that that all meat, all animal protein is a carcinogen that turns into a carcinogen in your body. And it was the same thing with me. I was actually in the studio. I was working with an artist named Amoy. She's a reggae artist. I know you love reggae. She's awesome. I was writing a song with her in the studio, and the producer, his name is Derek Bryn. He was playing that documentary Fork Over Knives. In between our songwriting session and watching, we would stop and I'd watch, and all of a sudden I started making the connection. They were showing about that rat that they were feeding meat to, and then the one that was feeding a vegan diet to, and you just noticed the cancer just rising in the meat eater, and then they reduce it, and all of a sudden it flatlines back to normal again. And that's wait a second. So from that moment on, that's when I started researching, and then I ran into this study where Henrietta Lacks gave her body to science, and she gave her body to science. I think it was in 1949, and they kept her cancer alive in a petri dish for 20 years by feeding it animal protein. That to me, like, hold on a second. So you're telling me that you were able to maintain cancer in a petri dish for 20 years simply by feeding it animal protein? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I mean, it just made that connection, and from that moment on, that was it. I told Derek, I said, well, I'm going to go vegan now, and that was it. On the 31st of 2013, I had my last one, and like you, same thing. Things start to open up. You start, like, first of all, the first thing I noticed when I became a vegan was my energy level was through the roof.
That's right. That's right.
And I used to get up. I used to have aches and pains in my knees, my joints. I was like running up and down the stairs. I remember I did I pulled an all-nighter, but I actually did 28 hours straight in the studio. And I felt like I didn't even need sleep. I was like, this is crazy. And that was only after the second week. And then the brain fog starts to go, start focusing on things. You can have someone speak to you. You don't have to, ask them to repeat it, or you can read something in the first go and you got it. I'm like, my God, I remember suffering about, like, when I was younger, I used to suffer. I could never read anything because I would always forget what it was that I was just reading about. But growing up Portuguese, I mean, you have Spanish in you, right?
I have. I'm a big mutt. Yeah, I have German, Italian, Mayan, English, Irish. Yeah. So
we're brought into our lives, with the culture that we're brought into. All the traditions, and you name it. For us, it was fish, it was meat and potatoes, it was all these things. So we all grew up. The whole family did. And so you grew up, with all this, and you don't even realize. Then all of a sudden, once you do, man, life starts to change.
Life starts to change, man. And well, let me start, Remy. Gosh, it's a pleasure. I can tell, man. I'm already feeling like so happy just connecting with you. Let me give the backstory to my followers who maybe don't know who you are, and how we came in contact, and how that whole story, because it's kind of a cool story. So everyone, if you don't know Remy, he is an amazing musician and artist, and he was and I hope you don't mind me kind of just telling this story. You were with the Tenors. You guys were a Canadian band. They are still an act, and you are not part of them anymore. You're kind of doing your own thing. I know you're doing different various, you have different projects you're working on and stuff.
Yeah, doing solo stuff now.
Right. But you had somehow come in contact with me way back when. We had a phone conversation years ago, and we were just finishing each other's sentences. And I was like, I like this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then we were starting to, around that time, you texted me when you were singing for the, before the All-Star game, you and the Tenors, at the San Diego Major League Baseball All-Star game. You guys sang the national anthem. And now you texted me that day, I remember, you were like, I forget the word, what you said. You said, tonight, I'm going to do something that's going to be life. It's going to change the world. It's going to set off some things. Just watch, brother. And I was like, oh gosh, what's Remy going to do?
I'll tell you how that day went. Well, first of all, I connected with you because of the Orgonite that you do, and I was you know, when you, like you said, when you become a vegan, things start opening up to you. You start seeing things from a different perspective, and I started studying William Reich and frequency and cymatics, and because I'm a musician. To me, I went to school for music, but nobody ever taught me, you know, the effects of sound on matter, you know? And so it was through my own study of studying, you know, I was going into quantum physics and you know, quarks and everything is in vibration. I was going through that whole gamut of things. And then I fell upon Nikola Tesla, you know? And when I started studying what, you know, Tesla was doing, I was like, man, here's a guy for humanity. Here's a guy that wanted to push free energy.
Right.
And I was thinking, it's crazy. How is it possible that you can dial in and tune to a frequency, and all of a sudden you can hear voices coming from a speaker? Like, that to me was so wild. And not only that, everything that he's, you know, rediscovered, I think, being able to transmit energy through sound waves. And so from that came William Reich and all the work that he was doing, because when you wake up, you start seeing the chemtrails and stuff. And I wanted to create an Orgone accumulator, stuff that he's done. You know, an Orgone accumulator is basically, it's a box that when you use organic and inorganic material and you layer it in really thin splices, I guess, what happens is that the energy, the prana, the chi, the ether, whatever you want to call it, it focuses inside the box. And he had people going into the box, and they were apparently curing themselves of cancer and many other diseases. And then the government got involved and tried to, you know, silence him and his work and put him in jail. And then he died mysteriously in jail. So that to me was enough to say, there's something about this, you know. Anytime the FDA is against something, you know, you got to realize that it's the exact opposite. You know, it's because they're trying to hide something. So I came to you for the Orgonite because I was searching for, you know, I wanted to create Orgonite myself, you know, but I just didn't have the time because I was touring around the world. And then I was like, I want to create a pyramid, you know, that has the Tesla coil with the crystal on the top, you know, because I was imagining all the torus fields and everything. And so when we started talking, man, it was like a connection right away. And I think I bought one of your first jumbo.
Yeah, you were the one to put. You were like, I want to buy a few of the biggest ones you can make, and I was like,
that's
okay,
it. There it is.
Yeah, right. That's you still got it. You still got it. That turquoise, totally. I remember it.
Yeah, it's got the crystal on
the
here.
Aquatic field. Yeah,
love is light. I got the you know, the love is light on the bottom, and there's the Tesla coil right there with the we have one on the bottom in the caps. I'm gonna do a tutorial on how it works. Yeah, and we got the coil going up, because what happens with the Tesla coil is that the more coils there are, the more you amp up the. You got some new ones now. That is awesome.
Yeah, so I'll be making a lot of these mini Cambuster, the pulsed ones. I'm telling you guys, there is something. I've gotten to a whole new level of clarity with dreams, remembering my dreams days after they happened, as if they were as real as it happened in this illusory matrix. When you add the pulse and the grounding, you get something special.
Well, that's all part of the William Reich technology, where you're grounding sometimes into the water or into the ground, and you're sending that energy up to the ionosphere, and that ends up dissipating all the crap that they're putting up into the air. You know,
I'm telling you, yep.
It's so crazy, you know, and it sounds, you know, hokey pokey and whatever.
New age,
but the fact of the matter is, this is all actually organic material. This stuff here, crystals, it's from the earth. I'm thinking that it's possibly kind of like when you take a look at Avatar and you got that tree, you got those trees. Those trees were made of a certain substance where, it's almost like water. Water carries with it memory. And so if it carries with it memory, it carries with it energy, and it transfers energy, and it can dissipate. Water is healing. And so crystal, it's the same type of thing.
Right. Oh man, it's so I'm gonna do more lives on Orgonite, how it works, more posts on Orgonite, because there's some accounts out there that are spreading disinformation, and we're going to clear that up with education. And I really don't appreciate some of these big accounts who are working with other accounts, and there's money involved, and that's a whole other story. But it needs to be addressed, because this is what I do for a living. And if you spread disinformation on something that's actually not true, and you're giving 80% truth and 20% disinformation, you need to be corrected. And you're asking to get corrected. And you will get corrected. So just know that, and you know who I'm talking about.
As soon as money gets involved, people, it's
corrupted.
It's the seed of greed. You know what I mean? And what I noticed from you from the get-go was that you're an empath and you care about people, and only those that care about people put themselves before anything else. You know what I mean? Like before money, before it's all about the betterment of humanity. And that's where people like Tesla and people like William Reich, that's where they were vibing at, and
true,
and that's
very
why
true.
That's why we connected right away. And so at that time I was in the band and I was touring around. I didn't have time to make one myself. I was discovering this stuff, this new type of this technology, and I was gonna get together with my nephew and start building it. But I was on tour all the time, didn't have a chance. So then I started looking up, people who make Orgonite, and I came across your account, and the fact that you were a vegan, I'm like, this is perfect. I want to help this guy. I want to order some stuff, and I contacted you, and then we kind of remained in contact ever since. And, And then I was in San Diego on July the 12th, and I was performing the national anthem at the MLB All-Star game.
Right.
And when I woke up that morning, like, first of all, my uncle had just passed away, and I had about 7 deaths at that point in my family in that 1 year. And so I was feeling very, very emotional, and I was just sick of what the system is forcing us to do. First of all, my whole band was we used to go to Africa and help orphans in Swaziland, and we would help lots of different charities and do various things. But there was something that was disconnecting with me. For the fact of the matter is that we were always wearing these Armani suits, and so I started when you're a vegan, you start things start opening up, you start doing more research. And so I started realizing, well, hold on a second. George Armani, he's actually making these shirts in Bangladesh in sweatshops. But yet here we are about singing songs that I've written called Free the Children. What am I doing, being a hypocrite, putting on this Armani suit when it was likely made by, a 6-year-old that has been working, in a sweatshop? And so that was the first thing. I started, wearing different clothes, different shoes. I wasn't wearing leather shoes anymore. I wasn't wearing leather jackets anymore. And but the way the beast system is that once you get in it and you're in it for the wrong reasons, your consciousness level just kind of goes by the wayside, and you start doing things just to make the buck. And that's how I was feeling that the whole band was kind of going towards. And that day I was the only vegan in the band, and I was making fun of, and they would eat chicken right in front of me and chew it.
I remember you texted me that. Yep.
All that really immature, stuff that people do when they don't realize, But I was going through all of that kind of stuff, and but what hit me was on that day. It was during the time that Alton Sterling was killed, selling a CD, and then the Dallas police were gunned down.
A lot of stuff was happening. Yeah.
All this stuff was happening, but I started seeing that. Well, hold on a second. These are staged events that are created by the system in order to create discord amongst the people. So they will intentionally do something in order to rile people up, because fear is their food of choice. This is how they manipulate people. And this is why your television screen, you know, emits those frequencies that start to program us. You know, these are black mirrors themselves, you know, these screens that we're looking at right now. And they were able to control the populace by using these frequencies. And so I started realizing this, and I knew that there was something so wrong with the system. And that day, I saw that. I actually saw the video of Alton Sterling getting shot, and that killed me, man. I'm like, how is this even possible? What kind of human, what kind of person can look at someone in the eye, pull a gun, and take their life, knowing that that person probably has children, has a family? You know, what kind of world do we live in when we can do this to each other? Yeah. And you know, that hit me so hard, and I was so angry. And that day, I had to put on an Armani shirt, but I didn't have an Armani shirt. I had one of my own shirts, but it was a color that one of the guys didn't have, and so I had to go and buy a shirt at Macy's. So here I am going, you know, with my bandmate to Macy's to go and buy a shirt, and I'm looking at every single shirt, every single one of them made in Bangladesh. I'm like, we can't. How do we escape this? This is ridiculous, you know. And when I came back, I ended up having to get the damn shirts so that I could, you know, color coordinate with the other guys. And then when I came back, I started looking at my Instagram, and the first thing I saw was this guy that was mutilating a sheep. He was shearing the sheep, right? But then he took these you know, the weed scissors that cut meat.
The shears, yeah.
He was cutting off his paws and punching it in the face. And I could not, it killed me. I fell to my knees in the hotel room, and I said, God, tell me what I can do. Tell me what to do. Tell me. And I said, I'll do anything, you know. And all of a sudden, it just came to me. All lives matter.
All lives matter.
Every single life is important to the one that created it. God created every single life on this planet. And when you read Genesis, I don't know if you read the Bible or any ancient text or whatever.
129.
Exactly, or even 126.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you see exactly God created the world, and He saw that it was good. So that means that everything that is good is of God, and everything that is destruction is of God's arch nemesis, or the spirit of evil, or whatever it is that you want to call it.
Yeah.
So when you look back at Babylon, you take a look at what they were doing. They were sacrificing God's creation to who? Not to God.
Yeah.
You would not go to Mozart and say, hey, Mozart or Beethoven, give me your Ninth Symphony. Let me take a look at these pages. Oh, this is so beautiful. My God, what a beautiful creation, Beethoven. And then scrubs it up, rip it up, burn it. You know, Beethoven.
People don't get it.
Hold on a second. That's my creation, right? And so when you take a look at Genesis, He gave us every herb and seed and plant, and that will be for meat. And
which means food.
Exactly. So
it's not about dead animal.
The only time that God apparently in the Bible permitted, you know, Noah, it was on the ark, so that, you know, because there was nothing. I mean, he was on, you know, in the waters forever. But still, to me, I think that there's been corruption, because, I mean, if you have a Bible that was edited by King James, for instance, King James, he was a man that was, you know, incest, murder, you name it. I mean, when you take a look at the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not kill. It's pretty clear. Thou shalt not kill.
There's no stuttering there, yeah.
No, there's none, you know. And then when you take a look at other entities like the Pope and the Vatican, I mean, how is it possible that someone that's supposedly representing God on earth is okay with creating these crusades and murdering and killing and pillaging people? You know, and you realize that it's literally the inversion of the truth. And they are the exact other side of the coin. But yet they brainwash us to think that it's okay, that incest is okay, that slavery is okay. Sure,
pedophilia, pederasty, yeah.
I'm sure God wanted all of us to be slaves. You know, that's ridiculous. That's another that has been edited. And so you got to go through these texts with a fine-tooth comb and really, you know, let your heart dictate where things really are at. So that day when I saw that sheep getting, you know, just tortured, you know, for what? Because some psychopath was getting his rocks off on hurting an animal. That was it, man. having to wear the shirt, having to put on that monkey suit, and being someone that I'm not, going on stage and having to utter these words that we don't live by, and then going out there and singing words of an anthem, the national anthem. The English part, is fine up to a certain point, but then we're bilingual in Canada, and so we sing the French part of the lyrics as well. So the French part of the lyrics promotes violence. It says you carry the sword and you carry the cross. To me, those are two opposites. Jesus was not about violence. Jesus was actually pointing out the violence that the system is doing, and talking about the Pharisees and how the Pharisees were preaching the word of God, but yet they were raping and molesting children behind closed doors. And that still happens today. And so Jesus was a truther. If you take a look at, that person, what he was all about, so he's not about violence. So I changed the French lyrics of you carry the sword and you carry the cross to we're all brothers and sisters. All lives matter.
All lives matter.
To the great,
yeah.
to the Creator, right?
Right.
And
yeah.
at the end, I changed the last part. It's stand on guard for thee, Thee. I changed it to stand on guard for peace. And then that created a massive uproar. Like, RT News in Russia, The Guardian in the UK, the LA Times, all these people were trying to connect with me, but my bandmates were saying, don't talk to the media, let us take care of it. We'll let them know that you're not a racist. We'll let them know, I mean, of course I'm not a racist. You didn't harbor a racist in your band for 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. And so then they went on ABC and they, instead of telling the world that, no, Remy's not a racist, he's got a good heart, he's a vegan, and he was talking about every single life is important to the one that creates it. No, instead, they went on and they said, we don't agree with his political beliefs.
Right.
They hung me out to dry like that.
They didn't have your back at all. Yep. They're like, oh, we don't know. We didn't. Yeah. You were hurt. You were big time hurt.
And you know what? They didn't know that I was going to do it. They didn't know, because I already, I mean, I would bring up a song idea and it would get rejected. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, this would be absolutely ridiculous, for them to accept it. But the fact of the matter is, I felt that I was moved by the Holy Spirit, by God, by the Creator, to send out a message. And that message is one of peace and unity, and that we're all in this together. And it's not, and it wasn't directed to a minority group, because then they're like, Black Lives Matter. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
they inverted your message to like,
they completely inverted my message. I mean,
this is not a dig at Black people, like.
At all.
Oh my God.
It had nothing to do with that. And the fact of the matter is, Black lives, they do matter. And who they need to focus their attention on is the system that's in place that is making us into these carnivorous, flesh-eating, psychopathic, desensitized populace, so that they can pit people once again against each other, and then watch as we kill ourselves.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's what people don't get. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's what my message was all about. It got inverted once it got online, and Billboard magazine even wrote this, big article. He's a flat earther. He believes in chemtrails, and they just dug out everything from my, because I was letting,
smear campaign.
Yeah, totally. I was already exposing the truth on my Facebook page. I was putting stuff out about chemtrails, and like I was just getting people to start thinking. Like, why do you think the skies are always white? Why, like, after a plane goes by and leaves stuff? Like, I mean, why is it that we don't get sun? You know what I mean? So I was planting the seed so that they could ask questions themselves, because that's what I don't want to be telling anybody what to do. But what I do want them to do is to think for themselves.
Just think.
That is very important, but it takes a little bit of, obviously, you need to cleanse yourself. And the only way you do that is by not consuming death. Because as soon as you consume that, you're consuming that energy, that frequency. And this all goes back to Tesla again, because Tesla was using frequencies, right, to generate energy. And when you take a look at Dr. Emoto and images of water, where he was applying frequencies to those droplets of water, and changing the molecular structure of the water underneath the microscope when it crystallized as a frozen pellet, he realized that not only is your thoughts a frequency, your intentions, words that you say, you know, English spelling, it's spelling, you're creating a spell, you're invoking something with what you're saying. You know, in the Bible, it says that your tongue is a sword, right? And if you take the S away from the word, and you add an S to the word, you have a sword. You can now either really kill someone or protect them, right? With one simple letter. And this is something that it doesn't even register with us. We just automatically do things, you know, and they're programming us on television to be doing all of these nefarious things, which then propagate the fear that they need in order to control the masses. And this is the crazy, and that's why I totally believe in the work that you're doing, because what you're doing stems already, the intention, I already know, is from a good place, and you want people to be more sensitized to what is for the betterment of humanity, you know, and that's what you're doing, and that's what these people were doing. And unfortunately, what happened to Tesla? They defunded him completely. He ended up, dying feeding pigeons in New York City as a poor man, you know, and William Reich ends up dead in jail. For what? For bringing rain to the desert? My God, God forbid we have rain in the desert. You know what I mean? It's so crazy. Yeah. So that's basically what it was. And I called you just beforehand. You were, my sister and my friend are the only people that I called, because I was in such a state of, I was nervous. I was shitting bricks. I mean, think about it. I'm going in front of 32 million people, and I'm taking a stand. Do you know, I had death threats for 3 months. People saying, "You walk on the street, I'll show you what's going to happen to you." You know what I mean? I didn't leave my house for 3 months. You know what I mean? And after a while, I'm like, you know what? Screw this, man. I was standing up for peace. If you're going to take my words, if you're going to take all lives matter, which a 3-year-old can tell you exactly what it means, you know, and you go to change that meaning and force feed that meaning into my mouth and expect me to say, "Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, I'm a racist pig. Yeah, I don't care about Black lives." That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. What I was trying to show is that we are fighting the wrong enemy. The enemy is not you and me. It's not culture versus culture. You know, it's not color versus color. It's not race versus race. It's the system that pits each one of us against one another for anything, whether it be religion, sex, denomination, color, you name it. They'll take anything, and that's what they did. They took advantage of that, and they said, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? This guy, he's awake. He knows what he's talking about, and he's we need to use his information, twist it, and push our agenda continuously." And that's exactly what they did. And so that's why you had Billboard magazine, ridiculing me. You had Vice magazine. I was fighting with an editor from Vice magazine. I had a guy from Maclean's magazine, which is like Time magazine in Canada. Okay, it's a nationwide magazine. They never even did an interview with me, never asked me a question. And this guy, okay, and he was a black guy, he wrote this article on me saying that Remigio is either a passive racist or an aggressive one or a passive racist. And he put this, and this was released all across Canada. So, you got the old ladies in the thing, "Oh, look at that, that guy's a racist," and there's my face and all there, and not even the common decency to say, hey brother, what was it that you meant when you said all that stuff? Like, what's your story? What's going on? Talk to me. Let's do an interview. Do you know that every single radio station and television station would not have me on their show speaking live because they needed to edit what I was going to say? Q, which is a famous radio station in a radio program on the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, they called me. They said, "Yeah, we're going to do an interview." Okay, I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "The only way I'm going to do it is live, because I know what's going on. I know that Black Lives Matter is being funded by George Soros." And that to me is a contradiction, because George Soros is tied to Freemasonry, and Freemasonry, the Grand Master Mason, Albert Pike, is the guy that started the KKK. So you tell me, what is Black Lives Matter doing, taking money from a group of people that started the KKK? George Soros is obviously a head Freemason somewhere, right? And the whole lineage of Brotherhood of Freemasonry, you go back to Albert Pike, in 1871, he predicted the First, Second, and the Third World Wars. And he says right in his book, it's called the Morals and Dogma of Freemasonry. He actually predicted. He actually said in that book that Freemasonry is a Luciferian doctrine. So
Right.
basically, once you get to the certain point, you realize that they're actually worshiping Lucifer,
Right.
the bringer of light, of illumination, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it was completely ridiculous. And they were afraid of me saying these things because they know if you go and you start finding out where this money is coming from, $75 million was given to Black Lives Matter. Well, the reason why George Soros is giving money to Black Lives Matter is because George Soros makes money off of guns. So if there's chaos running in the streets, sure enough, George Soros is going to have a few bucks in his pocket. Not only that, we're going to take care of the population because they're going to be just killing each other out. And so we're killing two birds with one stone and making a profit at the same time. Well, sure enough, I'm getting ready for this interview, and then 5 minutes to 9 o'clock, 8:55, they call me, say, "Oh, we have a technical difficulty. We can't do a live. It's going to have to be taped." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing it." And he's like, "Why not? Why don't you do it?" I'm like, "I'm not going to do it because I need to say what I say, and I can't have you edit me." And they said, "Well, we can't have you do what you did at the end of MLB game." And I'm like, "What do you mean? We can't let you come on here and say that the earth is flat." I'm like, "Why not? It's an opinion. It's subjective. From the proofs that I've seen, I can't see any proof that the earth is round and spinning." You know what I mean? I mean, try to prove to me mass attracting mass, first of all. We have no proof of that. We have no proof of curvature. And we have no proof of wet spinning balls holding water to its surface while creating centrifugal forces. I mean, it just doesn't happen, And anyways, the guy hung up, and that was it. And that's what it was like with every other media. They've been boycotting me now. I've put on concerts, that is literally in the neck of woods of print media, and they're like, "Oh, it's out of our district." I'm like, "Really? The concert's 20 minutes from your friggin', newspaper place." And so you realize that people like you, people like me, people who tell the truth are being silenced, and that's what it is. And so anyway, so that's what happened that day. And that's how everything changed in my life from that moment on. And, truth is a lonely road. It's a lonely road.
I felt bad for you. I didn't know you very well, but I felt really bad for what you were going through. I felt very protective of you. Like, here you are, this gentle man, and you're being kind of just, framed by the system to look like this person you're not. And here I am, making Orgonite for you. And that was my way of sending energy to you. And man, you've been through a lot, and you've been all over the world. And you even sent me a picture of you meeting the Queen. I think you shook her hand or kissed her hand or something. And there was a picture. The picture catches you actually looking into the Queen's eyes.
Oh,
and I said, "Did you see a slit?" Or what did I say?
Yeah.
Did she, something?
It's funny because I've sung for the Queen like 5 times, and this is the crazy thing that happened. On the last time that I sang for her, we were down there. It was May of 2016. And I had met her a bunch of times, and we were going to have tea with the Queen again. And, all the wives and the guys were all going to line up and, meet with the Queen and say hello again. But at this point, I'm too awake, and I didn't want to go there anymore. I'm like, screw this. There's no way. And not only that, I had a really weird feeling. So I stayed back at the hotel. And this hotel was an old hotel in Windsor, and it was literally probably about 20 minutes from the castle. And so there I was in my hotel taking a nap, which I usually do before a performance. And I was waiting for the guys to come and pick me up. So I'm taking a nap, and I'm not actually asleep. I'm still awake, but I'm almost kind of in between, right? And then all of a sudden, I get this feeling of being choked in my bed. I get this feeling of the bed sheets being pressed down against me, and my voice completely goes, and I can't even utter anything. There's nothing that can even come out of my mouth, and all I can do is reach out and try to move. But what happened was I was being pushed right off my bed with the blankets choking me, and to the point where it threw me right off my bed, and I fell to the ground. And when I fell to the ground, that's when I could gasp for air, and I felt it was some kind of a demonic something. I felt something, and all I could say was, I believe in Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And that's when it all subsided, right at that moment. And the crazy thing is like, I grew up Catholic, and I went to church, and I always had a weird feeling about the whole thing. And then I got into space and, Nova, watching all those programs, and I totally lost my way in terms of what I had been brought up with. My mom used to pray all the time. The Portuguese, we pray in the house, we pray in the car, we pray before you leave, you pray all the time. And so I was being led away from that. When my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I felt,
my mom has dementia.
Yeah, I started pulling away from God. That's what I felt was happening. So I went down the whole, space and all that stuff. I used to do projects on space and all that. And so for me, I wasn't even thinking about a spiritual world anymore. To me, that was all hoopla, I didn't believe in ghosts. I didn't believe in spirituality, any of that stuff. It kind of completely left me.
Yeah.
But when that happened to me on that bed, I knew, because I was basically saying this to the Queen, that I'm not going to go there, because she even asked the guys, "Oh, where's your other member?" And I wasn't there. I told my manager I'm staying behind. So I have a feeling that these people, they have energies about them. They are illuminated to the point where they know the secrets, and they know how to use fear and frequencies to manipulate people and whatnot. So that moment right there, and afterwards, so when I went and lined up at the field, I was next to Andrea Bocelli and his wife, and there we all are, all these actors, A-list actors and whatever. There we are, shaking her hand, and I just wanted to look deep in her eyes. I wanted to see, I just saw blank.
Yeah, blank. There's no soul there. There's no humanity there.
Nothing whatsoever.
Dead inside.
Totally. And you see that. I mean, when you look at people in the eyes tell a lot.
The eyes are the gateway to the soul. Yeah.
Totally. And it was just blank. There was nothing there, and
She's like, "Hello, Remy."
Well,
I saw that picture you sent me.
Well, the funny thing is that there was another guy that makes Orgonite in Edmonton, because I was in Edmonton, and or was it in? It was in Winnipeg, and I wanted this Orgonite that glowed. I just wanted to have something, in case my daughter comes over and she might like it. It could be a conversation piece or something. Yeah. And the guy saw the picture of me shaking the hands with the Queen, and everybody was on the same wavelength. Oh, did she, did she have lizard eyes, or all this kind of stuff. So
yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So then you get booted out of the tenors. You get all the smear campaign against your character. And so you've kind of been doing your solo thing for a while now, and you've been trying to kind of just preach about veganism and flat earth, and you're on various channels, right? You're on Facebook, and you're on Instagram a little bit.
Yeah, but Instagram shadow bans so much. Facebook shadow bans everything. You can't even put word in.
A lot of censorship. So you've been also creating a lot of music. And
the Truth album, after all this, called Vox Inaudita, which is voice unheard, which represents the truth community. A lot of us have these voices to spread the truth, but they're being silenced. And so this whole album that I made after all of this was specifically to expose truth and to put some truth out there. And yeah, it's and even that gets sent. No radio station wants to play it. You know, I had a station in Lethbridge, you know, Kiss saying, "Oh no, we're not playing anything, Remigio. What he did at the All-Star game, you know, he's not."
How dare you? How dare you change the lyrics to actually have a positive message? How dare you go against the system? Remy, have you ever been contacted? I know a lot of musicians and actors and stuff are like straight up asked, "Hey, do you want to be in these secret society groups?" Has there been any sort of contacting of you saying, "Hey, you know, if you just do this, we'll give you all this"?
I was in those circles, okay, to the point where those that were funding the band are literally at the top of the food chain. And I noticed that because afterwards I started investigating some of these people. Like we did a show with Paul McCartney in the UK for the Old Vic Theatre, and the guy that was putting it on was, you know, one of my favorite actors at the time, and I loved his movies. You know, I was like, man, I love that movie K-Pax. It was so awesome. You know what I mean? I can't wait to meet Kevin Spacey. And this was in 2014, and I remember meeting Kevin Spacey for the first time, and I was so excited. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah, K-Pax. I'm gonna meet K-Pax, man. This is great. You know, I remember meeting this guy. I go up and I go, "Oh, Mr. Spacey, nice to meet you." And my hand was up, and he basically was just staring away, and then he was like, and looking, and I'm like, what? I'm looking behind me to see what he was looking at. It was two young boys walking behind me that were in their, you know, young teen boys that were clearing tables. This was a massive event. Paul McCartney was playing, we were performing, and Kevin Spacey was putting it on, and he was eyeballing these young boys. And I'm thinking, whoa, that totally sent me for, I was messed up from that. And I went to my manager, I said, did you just see that? And he's like, what? Come on, don't worry about it. It's Kevin Spacey. Come on, you're overreacting. I'm like, dude, that guy was just frothing at the mouth at these two young boys, and the guy's like 57 years old. You know what I mean? It's disgusting. That was my first little peek into the music business and what's really going on. And I started doing some of my own research and started, you know, researching the people that are around me. We did this performance in Los Angeles. It was for the Anti-Defamation League, okay? But we were so busy that we didn't have any time whatsoever to look at the schedule, to know what we're doing. You know what I mean? Literally, we get there, and then we get briefed on what it is that we're doing. We figure, you know, our manager knows he's not going to be taking anything that's controversial or goes against our ethics. You know what I mean? And so I get my suit on, my Armani suit on, and I'm getting ready to go downstairs. And before I go, I check my tie to make sure everything is okay. And this voice came to my head while I was looking at myself. It said, like, what is your price? Name your price. What, you know? And I was like, what the hell? And I didn't understand why that came into my head. Anyways, I went back downstairs, and I leaned up against a pillar, and I started watching a video that this event was putting on. And I'm watching, and it was a video on war. And I'm thinking, well, okay. And people were getting blown up. And all of a sudden, people start cheering as the people are getting blown up. And I'm like, what the hell? Am I in the friggin' right room here? I'm looking around, people are cheering as people are getting blown up. And I went up to my manager and I said, what the hell's going on? Why are people cheering at people being blown up on this screen? And he's like, what, you know? And then he went, and so I'm going to go talk to David. We're doing this show with David Foster, you know? And then when he comes back, and he says, we're raising funds for the families of the military, you know, for scholarships and all this other stuff, for the Israeli military. And I'm thinking, listen, I don't care if you're Israeli, I don't care if you're Palestinian, I don't care if you're white, if you're black, if you're Chinese, green, red, blue, or green. Anybody that cheers at the sight of someone else getting their face blown off is a complete write-off in my book. What the hell are we doing here? And to me, I was like, and then all of a sudden, they give me the microphone and they push you on the stage. And then I got to sing this song. Once in every life, there comes a time we walk out on our own and into the light, And then my part, the moment won't last, but then we remember it again and guess who's in the audience? Arnold Schwarzenegger, Barbra Streisand, Sylvester Stallone, like all of these top A-list actors and everyone in the room. Like, how is it possible that everybody can get together like this and be okay with someone getting their face blown off and cheering and okay with people cheering at this stuff? To me, it makes no sense, but it started to make sense that this whole system is like all celebrities, all musicians, all sports celebrities, and all these people, they are commodities. They are investments of these elites because they end up amassing enough of a following that they can now brainwash the people into the agenda that they have. And that's exactly what it is. Because why else would these artists be doing stuff with, doing the 666 sign, you know what I mean? And doing all the, yeah, we all do it, rock and roll. But the fact of the matter is, symbols will be their downfall. Why is it that the U.S. Government, why is it that the Canadian government, why is the U.S. and Canada owned by the U.K.?
Right.
Why is it that the Queen came to Canada and
right.
13 Aboriginal children went missing when she left?
Yeah, and whatever happened with that lawsuit? There was a guy who was putting together with the International Tribunal Crimes Against the Church and State, something like that. There was a lawsuit going on. I was following for a while, and I remember
not
seeing.
Far from here, Brantford is where there were like tons of children that were Aboriginal children.
Native, yeah.
That went completely missing.
They probably hunted them and sacrificed them, yeah.
Well, this is the thing. When you take a look at a priest, okay? I'm sorry, but if you're a priest and you're spreading the truth, why is it that you're dressed all in black and the only thing you have that white is right here? What is that? Is that symbolic for the fact that you only speak the truth, but behind closed doors you're raping children?
Right, black and white. The Temple of Solomon. The black and white checkerboard. Everything is signs and symbols, man. How do you not see that they're putting these signs and symbols out there? They're basically, it's like when you play for a sports team, you put on a uniform. That's what you're representing, and then you see all these celebrities and politrics, and religious leaders that are basically putting it out there. They got the Pope doing all this stuff. I mean, come on.
The Pope is doing it. What would the Pope be doing?
But he's he's the Jesuit. He's on our side.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what? Okay, Jesuits have been running the world into the ground since 1500, and that leads us into flat Earth, the Jesuit deception.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, there's so many things that we could start talking about here. There's so many different tangents. We're probably going to get cut off here in about 6 minutes. So I think I could probably go another hour if you want to.
I can go on. We can just reboot once it's done.
Yeah, we'll do a little break in about 6 minutes and keep going. Because I don't think we've even started to talk about really anything. We've just been giving background. You've been sharing your story about what you've been going through. And so people really know who you are. And it's interesting, though, that you are in these circles of these A-list celebrities and musicians and the Queen and all these people, and you can kind of see that they have a sickness in that.
Totally.
You can kind of see in their eyes. You're one of the folks that real eyes realize real lies, and you're one of us. You're one of the tribe who can kind of see through the BS. You can see when someone doesn't have a soul. You can see when they represent the inverted and not the divine. And it's apparent to you, and it's apparent to me. It's apparent to a lot of people.
Yeah,
we can see through it.
It took me a while to get there because I was also doing. I was like, oh yeah, I remember singing the national anthem in, I think it was in Los Angeles. Yeah, it was for the LA Kings, and my girlfriend at the time said, give me a sign, show me a sign that you love me, right? So I went and I did the I love you after I sang the anthem, right? And so then my manager comes to me and says, hey, I just got a call from David. And he says, did you join? And I'm like, join what? Did you join the Illuminati? I'm like, and I thought he was joking, right?
Yeah.
Because we discussed a few things, I used to bring up a lot of stuff and they used to ridicule me, make fun of me and all that kind of, in the tour bus and all that. And so I thought that he was pulling my leg, but now I realize when you see that who is involved with all these people that are promoting this type of agenda, they're all involved.
Right.
All of them. You know what I mean? And whether directly or indirectly, they'll use their fame in order to bring other people on board, because that's what this whole business is all about, use and abuse. You know what I mean? And if you're not worth your weight in gold, they won't even talk to you.
We're all commodities. Yep.
Completely. And and all of these celebrities, they're made. It's like a made man, like the mafia. It's the same thing. It's like Justin Bieber. Here's a cute kid. He plays a few instruments. The girls could go crazy for him. Listen, we own every single station. So YouTube, we want 500 million views on this video by tomorrow. We want him on every single television station.
Yeah.
Okay. And we want hire 500 screaming girls with signs outside of this hotel room. You film it and you put it on ET, and then watch what happens. Overnight success, because little girls are like, oh my God, he's so cute. I love me, Justin Bieber. Mommy, can I go to a Justin Bieber concert?
Yeah.
And then they end up paying. You know how much people are paying for tickets these days? $1,300 for tickets to go see some of these A-list celebrities. Okay, $1,300, man. It's ridiculous, and that's not even front row. Some of them you pay $5,000, and that's not even a meet and greet. This is what I'm saying. It's they are commodities. They are made, and they become basically instruments, almost like an instrument of the CIA, brainwashing the people and getting them. I mean, you take a look at what they're promoting. That's all you got to do. Look at the advertisements that they do, the clothing that they wear, the symbols that they do. Jay-Z, even Van Halen, man. Like, I love Van Halen. I used to be a guitar head. You know what I mean? And you take a look, and all of them, every single one, were made. They sell their souls, man. That's what they do. And you take a look at
they say
Kanye
it
West. Kanye West, literally, they say it. Kanye West, his mother was dead on the operating table. You take a look at Jennifer Hudson. 3 of her family members were axed, were killed.
They're probably sacrificed. Yeah, sacrificed to the gods.
It comes from this old tradition of Babylon.
Right.
Sacrificing God's creation for what? For fame and fortune. And literally, you can be in the Illuminati. You can be a whatever. They'll give you everything. They'll give you a car. They'll give you $250,000. They'll do whatever it is. And people who don't realize that we're living in a spiritual world, they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, and then they take it. They take it. Suddenly, their soul starts dying inside. They start dying. Start realizing, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have gone to that party where they were raping that child. Maybe I shouldn't. Yes, what did it? I mean, you take a look at the drummer from the Scorpions. He said that he was going to parties and that they were sacrificing young boys. I mean, what would that guy Why would he say something like
It's,
that?
you know, it's too outrageous for people to believe it, because
Totally.
they've conditioned people to think of that stuff as just, oh, it doesn't happen. And since the media doesn't focus on any of that stuff, people don't really hear it, and it doesn't really compute to them that that's happening. You
Exactly.
know,
And then what the media does focus on, like a ball Earth, you know, every single video you see, it's got the Earth, it's round.
BAAL, ball.
Exactly, exactly. So this is the thing. What they propagate is what manifests in our consciousness.
They
And
know
so
that, right?
they know this. And so the more times you see it, the more like, well, come on, they would. Why would they lie?
Why would they lie? What do
Why
they
would
get out of it? Yeah,
ex-
right.
you know? And
That's
so
that's what people don't understand is okay. Well, let's say the Earth's flat. Well, who cares? What does it have to do with anything? Well, people don't see that everything is connected. The deception that they instill in us, the slight stuff that is, a lot of it is truth, some of
yeah,
it's inverted, but
yeah.
all right, we are live again.